Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's Sam here. It's been a while since I've recorded anything here. Well, my life's been busy, and also I've been just reading a huge amount of urban fantasy. Now, unless you really want me to go through the Stooky's Stackhouse series of novels, which are witty and funny and great gender genre bending, um, I think I'll just refocus back onto recent books in the general area of the metaphysical, occult, and the history of the pre-Christian, non-Christian religions, because I've acquired a fair number of books in those broad fields since I last talked to you. So let me just quickly run through a few of the notable and valuable works that I have recently acquired. Um, this one, Silence of the Gods, The Untold History of Europe's Last Pagan Peoples by Francis Young. It's published by Cambridge University Press in 2025. What an interesting book. Um, he begins with the conversion of the last pagan kingdom in Eastern Europe, which was Lithuania, and then talks about Christianization as a process in Eastern Europe, and proceeds century by century with both Christianization and how it was seen in the scholarly and popular mind in other parts of Europe. Um, Beginning with, of course, the Christianization of Europe, Western Europe proper. Um, the quick history of that, which is well presented. Then he talks about the Northern Crusades, and gives a quick sketch of the various peoples who resisted Christianization. Some of whom are familiar to us, like the Finns, the Sami, the Estonians, but some of whom we may not have heard of, the Maris, the Chuvash, or the Mordvins, all in what is now Russia, generally speaking, or the former Russian Empire, Prussia. So, beginning with the 15th century, 16th century, 17th, and the 18th and 19th century. He does a very interesting analysis of the folklore and fantasy involved in the 19th century reinvention of paganism, and the especially interesting to me is the hybrid quality of conversion. Um, Although the kings and rulers typically were converted, and the common people took a lot longer to decide whether this new religion made any sense to them, and they had a whole bunch of pre-Christian traditions and religious elements that continued, they gradually became more orthodox over time. Um, Fascinating process, very interesting book, and an excellent academic history. It's not thick and turgid and difficult to read, but it's very definitely solidly supported by documentation. Um, if you are interested in Eastern European paganisms in more than a casual way, definitely you should give this book a read. Okay, another. This is a boxed set. The Sorcerer's Scholar, High Magic of and Spells of the Middle Ages by Claude Lecouteux. It's actually 3 books that were previously published separately that have been republished by Inner Traditions, and it's just came out in November. The 3 books are all very useful reference works. They they're translated out of French, well translated, and contain many pieces in them, spells and magical workings that were translated in turn by Lecouteux into French. But nonetheless, they read well. They're clear. The language is a little formal, but not at all difficult to follow. First, High Magic of Talismans and Amulets. It's an excellent guide to preparation and use of talismans and amulets. Wide-ranging with Christian and Catholic ideas. Their use in medicine. Magic was, of course, a normal part of medicine up in the Middle Ages and up until recently. How you make them, what stuff you might include in them. Several useful appendices on creating and consecrating magical objects, the seals for the planets, and so on. It's not just another knockoff of Agrippa. Far too much of what passes for recent research in high magic is just retelling Agrippa, and he draws from a number of other sources throughout, which is refreshing and valuable. Traditional magic spells. This is a collection for protection and healing, principally. This is a fascinating collection of magical spells. I mean, he has, let's see, what's the number here? 573 magic spells drawn from across Europe, principally from the Middle Ages, but as late as the 19th century. Arranged in chapters that deal with diagnosis, human illnesses, repelling evil spells, devils and demons, healing animals, and protection. And really, just an excellent collection. Not only is the collection excellent and extensive, with each spells, he says where he got it from, and there's a very good bibliography. So if you wish to follow up on some of his sources, easy to do so. It's also well illustrated with illustrations from manuscripts as well as of talismans and so on. Does of course use some of the Key of Solomon the King and so on, but again draws much more widely than the usual suspects. And here, Dictionary of Ancient and Ancient Magic Words and Spells. Just what it says. It's a it's a dictionary. Again, he does give some introductory material, puts the stuff into a historical context, but substantially it's a dictionary. So what he does is he takes each word where it appears in a different spells, cites the places where he drew it from, in greater and lesser amounts of detail. When he talks about the Sator Arepo magic square, which we're all familiar with, he does it in some detail, like about 4 pages worth of discussion of its use, its provenance, and so on. And in some cases, he just simply does a quick, short paragraph. But it's, again, it's just a very, very comprehensive and useful dictionary, a reference work. These three books together, published by published in a boxed set by Inner Traditions, is $95 US, 120 Canadian. A useful supplement. It's not about high magic. It's about the folk magic principally, the magic of the ordinary people. And I have a great interest in folk magic traditions, and so I found it to be a really valuable addition to my library. Talking about folk magic, I think I'll give a couple. This is a brand new book. Stories and Magic for Liberation, Hoodoo Saints and Root Warriors. And I won't try to pronounce her name. Her last name is Bomani, published by Llewellyn, I think it's just this month. An absolutely fascinating book. Very, very useful. She has a strong black nationalist perspective, but the book is not completely like lecture and rant. There's a number of really interesting portraits of fascinating figures in principally Black American history, and a lot of very practical hoodoo stuff. A bit of a history of the various traditions that came together into hoodoo. A lot of magic that is aimed at, among other things, combating systematic racism in various ways, and in bolstering up and strengthening the courage and energy of people who are having to deal with it. Day-to-day stuff as well. It's not just a political tract. I have to say that there is a lot of very, very good spell work in here. Excellent explanations of how it works. Some stuff I'd never seen before on how to canonize hoodoo saints, the ceremony working a cosmogram, divination, and it's just, get it, especially if you're a part of a racialized minority. I think you would find this extremely helpful in a variety of issues in your life. I thoroughly enjoyed reading through it. I want to particularly point out that making saints of some people like Marsha Johnson, and then doing Pombagira workings using Marsha Johnson as the principal intermediary. Fascinating work. There we go. This one's somewhat less intense, quite a bit less intense. Magic from the Hilltops and Hollers by Leah Middleton. It's a love story to Appalachia in many ways. A love letter to Appalachia, but also an interesting introduction to Appalachian folk magic traditions and culture in general. Really, really interesting. Worth a read. She has a warm and supportive style. Writes well. It's a little flowery for my taste, but her descriptive stuff is great, and she, much to her credit, acknowledges that Appalachia's culture and magic was shaped by waves of immigrants in conjunction with the indigenous people, and of course including a large number of enslaved people who either were free or or after the Civil War. Yeah, good, very good book. I would have to say it's a snack or a meal. It's not the full banquet. There are some details in here. There's some spellcraft and style, but I would want to dig deeper in more detailed sources after reading this. But it's a good book. Now here's another. This one's about I guess European literary culture magic. This is the Women of the Fairy Tale Resistance, written by Jane Harrington and illustrated beautifully by Courtney. When we think of fairy tales, the genre of fairy stories, fantasy stories, we'll think of folks like Hans Christian Andersen, the Brothers Grimm, Perrault, and a few others. But we'll never think of the people who started the whole genre, which is this group of 7 women who were friends and associated through a salon in Paris in the 1690s to 1710s, who wrote together, 60 or 70 fairy tales that were widely reprinted and very, very popular for about 100 years. So Harrington gives portraits of each of these women, short biographies of Mary Catherine Danielle, Henriette Julie Marat, Charlotte Rose LaForce, and others. Reprints, translates, and adapts stories of theirs, and yeah, it's just a great little book. It's very nicely designed and put together. Has these beautiful illustrations, and is a pleasure to read, as well as filling in yet another example of erasure of creative women. Yeah, I will highly recommend this book. It's published by Black Dog and Leventhal Publishers, and this year, 2025. I think it was published in August or something of this year. Great book. If you're interested in fairy stories, fantasy in general, or in women's literary history, get the book. And now, just a couple of books that are I guess pagan pastoral books. They're helpful in using a pagan lens to deal with challenges in life. Stuff that is skimmed over often in pagan books, but which needs to be explored more as our movement grows, as we age and gradually our health diminishes. All of these things. This one, Sacred Tears, a Witch's Guide to Grief, by Courtney Weber, which I got for review, published 2024 by Llewellyn. It's a very good book on dealing with grief. That's really it. It talks about feelings that people will have, feelings of being abandoned by the gods, abandoned by the people who have died, the normal process of grief and pain, and how to cope with that, how to make it easier, how to derive sense and meaning out of it. And it's by no means trivial. It doesn't do this, just give it time and you'll feel better, or all that stuff. It's just really good, really solid, and I recommend it highly. To those people who are going through grief, who've suffered a loss recently, my sympathy, you'll find it very helpful. For those who are supporting people who are going through grief, this will be extremely helpful. Um, yes, yes, just an excellent, solid work. Get it. And in a similar vein, Chronically Magickal, Navigating Chronic Illness with Witchcraft by Danielle Dionne, published also by Llewellyn and last year, 2024. Just an excellent book. Um, people's there's there's still an unfortunate amount of ableism in the pagan and witchcraft communities. We still have some vision of ourselves, despite the larger number of us who suffer from chronic illness than the population at large, that we're all like healthy, buff young guys and young women. You know, it's not true, and we often feel disempowered as we go through illness, and with our community not really dealing with it very well. Um, some illnesses are sporadic. You know, I threw my back out a couple weeks ago, and I'm still feeling twinges. That's a sporadic thing. But there are many people that I know that suffer from chronic illness who have mental or physical challenges, and this book is very valuable because it gives tools for helping to make those things easier and to continue to be a spiritual and magical person with the illness that you are living with, instead of trying to deny it or to pretend that it's not there. A very, very good and overdue book, and I'm pleased to have added it to my library recently. And I believe that's everything in my recently added pile. I think I will try to do something focused on specific issues um, or parts of my collection again soon. But I just realized that it had been several months since I'd done anything, so here I am. Um, so everyone, take care of yourselves as we go into the dark part of the year. Let's find ways to kindle the light for each other and to make our lives better and kinder. Blessed be.